Yeah, this is a physical therapy channel, but my kids are making me do this. What's up, y'all? This is Carolina Doc PT, and in today's video, we are doing something a little bit differently because of my kids. I took them and my wife to go and see the new Spider-Man Brand New Day movie last night, and they are dying for me to do a movie review of this movie on this channel. And for some reason, I have agreed to do it. So here we go. In all honesty, this was a really good movie. It's, if you like, I mean, not everybody loves the superhero genre and all that stuff, but I do. I used to read Marvel comics and DC comics and all that when I was younger, and actually for even into adulthood somewhat, although Marvel somewhere along the way kind of lost the plot, and so did DC. I felt like they really took a direction with their characters that I think as a fan of reading those comics for years and years, to me, went in a direction where the character themselves were not really recognizable, and so that pretty much pushed me out of comics years and years ago. But I do know the lore, and I do know all the background and all that type stuff. So we have watched the Marvel movies. At least up until Endgame, Marvel Avengers Endgame was that kind of ended me watching most of the Marvel movies after that. I didn't love I didn't love the way it ended. It just, anyway, that's a whole nother story. I won't get into that. But so I say all that to say, I have maintained watching some of the Spider-Man movies, and the Spider-Man 3 that came out with Tom Holland. I forgot the name of it, but that was great. I really enjoyed it. So go into this movie, and I got a good background on who Spider-Man is and who the character is and Peter Parker and all that. And so I was unsure what Marvel was going to do, because I know that they've, usually they roll in trilogies, and the third Spider-Man movie that they put out a few years ago was really good, with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming in and reprising their roles from Spider-Man that were in a different universe within the multiverse that Marvel has established. And they did a really good job. And so I was unsure where Brand New Day was going to go, and was pleasantly very surprised. They did a really good job. It's a good movie. So there are going to be spoilers here. If you've not seen this movie, then you want to stop and you can come back later. And if you're interested in what a physical therapist has to say about this movie, but from here on out, there may be spoilers. So just warning, if you haven't seen this, spoilers, potentially from here on out. So let's talk about, I kind of, as I thought about what I was going to do for this, in addition to killing the algorithm on my channel, because I'm doing a review of a superhero movie on a physical therapy channel. So in addition to that, for the 20 people that actually will wind up being able to see this video, even that might be a high number. The way we'll break this down. Let's talk about first what I didn't like. Okay, because there was some things that I didn't love about this movie, and then we'll go through what I liked about it, and then we'll hit the very end, something I think that this movie did really, really well, and it relates to heroism and just bringing back true heroes and how that's done. And Marvel did a really good job of that in this movie. So, all right. So first off, let's start with what I didn't love. So I'm a dad. I'm a Christian. Marvel, did you have to drop the GD throughout this movie. I recognize that so one of the characters in this movie is the Punisher, and he is meant to be a very gritty Marvel character. He is a character that will kill, unlike any of the other superheroes. So he's kind of like an anti-hero, and that comes from his background and his story. And I'm not going to get into any of that. I never really loved the Punisher character. I didn't really watch that or read very much of that when I was into comics. But he's in the movie. I understand. So the Punisher is in New York. Peter Parker's set in New York. One of the setting of it is one of the things that makes this movie so great. And seeing Spider-Man, swinging through all the, through the city and all that, which we'll get into in just a minute. So it's definitely a set in New York. So we understand that there's a bit more coarse language being used in New York. Okay, we get it. These characters are set in a city where harsh language is known. But look, you are appealing to kids. Kids are going to watch this movie. Do you really have to contribute just the coarsening of society by just saying GD all the time? And Marvel definitely knows what they're doing, because at one scene, it really was kind of funny. It was funny when the Punisher, he's about to drop an F-bomb, and Spider-Man, just before he's able to do that, shoots a web into his mouth, and so it stops him from actually saying it. So that was really funny, and so, but you can see that Marvel definitely understands cuss words. Even Spider-Man, at some point, I can't remember the exact word, and I can't remember, it's kind of near the end of the movie, he is cursing a little bit. Like, I don't know, I would just ask, would it really take away from the movie a whole lot if maybe we cut those down just a few? So if you're a parent and you're not wanting your kids to see that, maybe you want to wait until this movie comes out on like a primetime channel. Although I don't even think they're cutting GD anymore. I don't know when all of a sudden that didn't become a cuss word, but whatever. So okay, so that was my one thing that I didn't love about it. Next thing is, okay, the suit. So this is both a positive and a negative. The suit that they have Spider-Man in looks really good. Okay, it is very comic accurate. When you see that Spider-Man there, that is kind of the Spider-Man that we all grew up with, and that's what his look is, and they did a great job of that. However, when you are reading Spider-Man in a comic, okay, and we're trying to make these comic accurate real life movies, right? When you're looking on the comic, when Spider-Man is swinging through the city, you don't see his suit ripple. I hate that. Like, it is, the Spider-Man suit is supposed to be skin tight. Okay. That would actually help with fighting. You don't want loose things around you when you're in a fight, because that gives something for the person you're fighting to maybe grab onto. You want it to be skin tight. There's a practical point of view to this. So not only is it aesthetically looks better when the Spider-Man is swinging through the city and his suit is not rippling. The ripple takes you out of it. It's supposed to be a comic, but it's a real life comic. In comics, the suit doesn't ripple. That they did this with Andrew Garfield, and I think that was in the Spider-Man, his second Spider-Man movie, which they did a really good job of showing him also swinging through the city. But they did it opened up with the very first thing. He dives off of one of the skyscrapers in New York City, and it starts off with his suit rippling. It's one of the things that I hated about that movie. They brought it for some reason into this Marvel movie. So get rid of the rippling. It should be skin tight. Okay. It helps practically, and it also doesn't take you away visually from it. So whereas I loved the suit and really thought it was good looking, the way that they had the suit interact in real life, didn't love. So that was another thing that I didn't love about this movie. Oh, and then this is the third thing, and the last thing that I didn't really love about this movie. Look, I recognize Tom Holland had to get into really good shape, and he has apparently done so. He's done a whole lot of work. And Spider-Man looks, the way that his suit fits him looks really good. It's what you would expect of someone that is fighting crime like that. He looks very much like he's in the comics. He is ripped, has washboard abs, all that type of thing. But do we have to show this man's abs like every 15 minutes throughout this movie? Like, I mean, I think they overdid that just a little bit. I mean, Christopher Reeve was able to convince an entire generation that he was Superman, and I don't recall him ever taking his shirt off once. I mean, come on. Like, I think that was probably unnecessary. And I mean, it fits the story somewhat, but I think Marvel could tone that down just a little bit. All right, so that leads. Those are really my kind of not really complaints. They're just some things that I didn't love about the movie. So now some things that were great about it. Tom Holland. Tom Holland is just quintessential Peter Parker. He plays the tragedy and the story that Peter Parker has like really, really well. You believe he is Peter Parker. And he does a great job also of flipping that switch and going into being Spider-Man too. Like he's a very good example of someone that you would say is, I can see both Peter Parker and Spider-Man in this one dude. So I think Tom Holland is like probably one of the best things about this movie. His Zendaya, his real life wife, I believe it is, who plays his girlfriend, who, because of what's happened in the Spider-Man 3, where all of the world has forgotten, or from Doctor Strange's spell, the world now doesn't remember who Spider-Man is, and he remembers the world, but he remembers this relationship with Zendaya, with MJ, and she does not. And they have a really good dynamic. They do a really good job, both of them playing that together. Zendaya does really good. Like, some of her best acting, I think, is actually when she's not speaking. Some of the things that she's doing, like there's a scene where Spider-Man is swinging her through the city, and she's just looking kind of at him and what's happening, and has realized that she doesn't remember who he is, but you can tell it seems like she wants to remember, and wants to, realizes that maybe something that's special is not there now, and I don't know. I thought that was really good, and so I thought that was well done. Also, the other, as we're talking about the actors, Ned. I don't know the guy that plays him, but Ned is the character, or the actor that plays Ned is really good. This is Peter Parker's best friend, who also doesn't remember him, and he brings a really good energy into that role, and he's a bright light kind of throughout the movie. That's really good. I'll tell you, I didn't love the girl who played Jean Grey. I even told our daughter as we were going through this, or as we were watching this movie, that when she first was on the screen, I didn't think she was the right actress to play Jean Grey. She doesn't. Jean Grey is supposed to be like a, drop dead gorgeous redhead, and I don't know. Apologies to the actress, but I wouldn't pick her out as being like a supermodel and stuff, but that's kind of what in the X-Men, that's kind of how Jean Grey is played. So she is a mutant. She hasn't been introduced into Marvel yet, and the X-Men have not been, but they're setting that up for this current MCU universe. That's what I mean. The mutants haven't been brought into this universe yet, but they're preparing to do so apparently in the whole Doomsday and upcoming Secret Wars and all that. I think they've just announced that they have a cast for the X-Men movies that are going to be coming out. So I'll tell you that at the beginning, I felt that way. By the end, the actress had kind of changed my opinion of that. And that gets into the heroism aspect and what I thought Marvel did a really good job of with this movie. And that was really worth seeing. So at first she's kind of playing the villain role, and then that kind of flips by the end, sort of. And it did make me think that I see where I think Marvel is going to go. So one of the things with the X-Men, if you know anything about the comics and things, they were created in oh god, I can't remember when they were created, but Stan Lee created them, I think around in the 60s. But they were always meant to be playing off of, like, throughout the X-Men comics, there's this big thing where they play up that humans are like hate mutants, and it's meant to kind of be this kind of play off of really kind of racial issues that were back in the 60s. And it talks about bigotry and overcoming bigotry and all this, and so that's kind of where the X-Men have originally, that's some of the tension that were in the X-Men comics, especially early on. Well, you can see where Marvel, I think, is going with this. And I think what they're going to be doing to create that same kind of turmoil and angst between humanity and people who are humans that don't have powers, and these people are mutants that do have powers that have been, granted to them. I think it seems like because of how Jean Grey manifests her powers throughout the movie, like she is jumping, at points she is using mental telepathy, where she's able to go into different people's bodies and make them, do things. That, I think, is the direction. I think that's the reveal of how Marvel is going to make humans not like mutants, and that's where the tension, I think, is going to come in those films, because it looks like what they're setting up is humans are going to realize that these mutants, when their powers express, that they're very dangerous and they can hurt people and harm people, and they don't know how to control their powers. So they're not instantly superheroes just because they have these superpowers. And just because you have superpowers doesn't make you a superhero. It's what you do with those powers, which is what Marvel does really well by the end of this movie. And so I think they're going to have humans being like, to create that kind of tension. That's a nod to the kind of like racial tension. It's going to be where humans are afraid of mutants and the power that they have, and so humans are going to want to get rid of them and control them and all that. And I think that's the direction that Marvel is going to be going with that storyline. And Jean Grey, the girl that played, and apologies, I don't remember the actress's name, but she does a good job of doing this, and because she transforms, and so that kind of leads into I'm gonna save that. Let me come up to some other good things. So Jean Grey, I think, is one of the good things. Is it winds up being a positive. Let me say that. She flipped me during the movie, and the actress made me believe in her character by the end. So the writers did a really good job of that, and so did the actress. One of my favorite things about this movie is the action. Really, not so much the fighting. The fighting was good. It's a Marvel movie. That's one of the things that Marvel does excellent at, always. The way that it looks and the way that the interactions between the characters as they're fighting, they're great. There's some fights with the Hulk in this movie that are really good. It's really interesting. Some of the things that are going on in that fight, like you have the Punisher and Spiderman both fighting the Hulk at the same time, and it creates some really cool kind of shots. But those actually were not my favorite action moments. My favorite action moments in this movie were all of the interactions of Spider-Man in the environment of New York, where he is diving off of buildings, he's shooting his webs and swinging throughout the movies. Like this, they did such a good job of showing Spider-Man moving throughout New York City. That to me was the best action, and the great thing is that's happening throughout the movie. Like that is Spider-Man. Like he if you read the comics, if you saw the Spider-Man cartoons, all that, it's about him just swinging, and it was one of the coolest things ever, is just seeing him move and interact in the city of New York, and that is throughout this movie. And I thought that, to me, was my favorite part, really, of the action. I thought that was just really entertaining to see. They did a really good job of it, and it's the best and most comic accurate Spider-Man movement, I think, that we've seen and that Marvel has done. So that was really good. They also did some cool things, like where they had moments and scenes that they kind of almost did like a freeze frame of different comic covers throughout, like kind of history and stuff, and that they did some some cool things. There are these bad guys, there are these ninjas, and that are all coming up and to fight Superman. I mean, to fight Spider-Man, and just the way that is shot and done. So there's a really cool. So the way this thing looks is excellent. Seeing it on a big screen makes it even better. So I do recommend to go see it if you want to see the effects and things. Go to see it for that. But my absolute favorite thing about this, and it really led to, I think, a moment that was one of my favorite movie moments in a long time, and it really has to do with heroism and what is a hero. And Spider-Man, throughout his character is like quintessential heroism, where he is constantly fighting to help people, and he's putting his life on the line and putting his life at risk. And oftentimes people don't think about and appreciate that that's what the superheroes are doing, that they actually are risking their lives for others because they have these powers. And so that means that they can't be hurt or they can't be killed. And that's not true. And this, so again, spoiler, if you, I mean, we're too late now, and stuff, I guess, with that. But, the very end of the movie, so Jean Grey has like frozen, a portion of the city, and the Punisher is outside of this portion that she has frozen with, using her telekinesis and her mutant powers, and like her mutant powers have expanded, and she's is really mad because she's just found out that her sister was killed by this government organization that was trying to study her, and then they tried to do the same thing to her, and so she's kind of busting out, and her powers are now taking a leap as is so distraught about this. So she's like has frozen everyone within the, like, I think it's like a 2-mile vicinity or 1.5 miles or something like that. Anyway, and Spider-Man is one that she can't control because of the powers that he has, and so he she's kind of fighting with him, or they're kind of interacting. I can't remember if they're fighting. They're talking, and they're kind of interacting. Then all of a sudden, the Punisher, who is outside of this bubble that's been created, as I say, his character kills people. Spider-Man doesn't. So the Punisher, he has a gun, and he shoots to kill Jean Grey. Spider-Man, with his spider sense, senses this bullet coming as he's talking to her, and winds up putting himself between her and the bullet. So the bullet hits her back, or hits him in the back, as he like saves her. And at first you don't know that he's been hit, and then he even makes, I think, some joke, and then he collapses to the ground. And then Jean Grey kind of freaks out and is like, hey, are you okay? And whatever. And he's going, I'm going to be all right. And then underneath him, you see this pool of blood, like just starting to just grow and grow. And you're just like, oh, he's not going to survive this. He got hit really hard. And so then you see Jean Grey, and so at some point, Peter's mask, I guess, was off in the, when they were talking, and just before he got shot. And so you can see him, she's looking in his eyes, and you start to see Jean Grey say, okay, just breathe with me. And you can see her just start to look, and she starts to focus on him. She's like, just breathe with me. And you see Peter kind of starting to look at her, and then she just see her starting to go into this breathing kind of motion, and then it cuts. And then they go to cut to a scene, which again is another comic cover, I believe, where you have the Punisher carrying a limp Peter Parker into the hospital. And, he's like kicking open the emergency room doors and he's carrying Peter in, or carrying Spider-Man in, because they put his mask back on his head. And he's in the, then you have time pass, you have news reports about Spider-Man has been, is in critical condition and all this. He's in the hospital. And so obviously time passes. And then you from these news reports that are happening, and then you go to and you cut to Jean Grey, and you see her continuing to breathe in the same rhythm that she was doing when she first started, or when she told Peter to like look at her and to to breathe with her. So she's breathing in and out, and you can see her so focused, and you can see that this is kind of taking a toll. Like she kind of shows that this is not something that's easy for her to do. She's like giving like effort, to do this. And then it cuts back to Peter, and you start to see him open his eyes. And then that's when you realize, holy cow, she's been keeping him alive this whole time. Like she pulled his blood back into him. I'm assuming she is having him go through this, or having him keep his lungs, his oxygen going. She would have had to keep his blood flow going past where the injury is to keep him alive. And so she's been using her powers nonstop and given this effort, this heroic effort to save his life. And and then you see Peter wake up, and then he takes the oxygen mask off, and then he and Punisher interact, and he says that like Jean saved you, but it wasn't that it was just one act. She was constantly like just before that scene cuts to back to Peter, you see her kind of like she like stops finally, and you can see where she now has recognized that okay, his body has healed enough. Because he does have his healing, I think is he will heal faster than a normal person. So he's going to recover from this quicker. But she must have realized that, okay, this is, he's okay now and I can let go. And that moment to me, that heroism from both of them, from the action of Spider-Man stepping in front of that bullet to protect her, and then her giving like just everything she has to keep him alive over this long time, so that the surgeons can help to put him back together and remove the bullet and repair the damage, and then his own body can then kick in and heal from that. That she's been with him the whole time, keeping him alive. That to me hit me in a different way, man. Like that was an awesome moment. Like it almost made me slightly tear up. It almost did. Like it almost makes, it's almost one of the best best moments in a movie that I've seen in a long time. Like the last thing, the movie that I can think of that it makes me reminds me of is, I don't know if you've seen The Magnificent Seven. It's a great movie. If you've never seen that, you definitely should go see it. But I'm talking about Denzel Washington's version. I've seen the older one. That was one of my dad's favorite movies, the older version. But I really like the Denzel Washington version of it. And he does that character so great. But my favorite line in that entire movie is the very last line, and it's said by again, spoilers if you haven't seen this yet, but in The Magnificent Seven, you get the woman who at the beginning loses her husband because of bad guys that have taken over their town in this. It's a Western. And out in the West, she goes and she finds someone to recruit 7 men to come and fight these bad guys, and they do. And some of their guys, or some of the 7, wind up dying, and they give their lives for it. And it shows it has her kind of talking about at the end as the seven that the ones of the seven that have survived are going off, and she's talking about what's happened and what they did and how they gave their lives to fight for these people that they did not know, and but yet they still did it because it was right and it was good. And she finishes the line by saying it was magnificent. And that's like one of my favorite lines of any movie that I've really ever seen. This moment with Jean Grey where she stops breathing for Peter, and you realize what she did for that, and that she went to such great efforts to save his life, just like he saved her. Like it was awesome. It was Marvel did. You captured heroism. Like Jean Grey is a hero, and she just like Spider-Man, and that is what a hero is, and that is such a good example of that. Like that to me is what really put this movie at a different level. It was very heartfelt. It was really good. So so those are some of my thoughts on this movie. Like this, I think it's definitely is well worth watching. It's definitely, I've heard it said that this may be one of the best superhero movies that's come out in a while, and I think that's definitely true. I don't think there's been a superhero movie that's been as good as this since the last Spider-Man movie. I think that was on par with this, although this one I think is in a different way, takes it to a different level, I would say. And partly it's because of the showing of heroism. And I think that you're going to start to see that's where I think the X-Men are going to go. And at least I hope they are, where you show this is how the mutant heroes kind of separate themselves from the non-mutant heroes and show, and humanity, hey, there is good in us, and we do want to help, and we can help. And I think Jean Grey, I'm very interested to see what they do with her character for the X-Men, because she went from being very angry and stuff throughout the whole movie, justifiably so, it turns out, but still she does harm people throughout the movie early on, because she's trying to save her sister, but kind of there's the end justify does the end justify the means kind of question throughout all of that, because is hurting people to try to do that. But I think by the end, maybe they've had that character to learn something. It would be really interesting to see if they have her take that next step and make her grow, in a way that a person would after having had someone sacrifice themselves to save their lives, and then they turn around and save theirs. It's interesting to see how they'll have her show that growth has happened. So anyway, all right, so this is a physical therapy review of Spider-Man: A Brand New Day. And I will say, that Spider-Man does stretch, and they show him stretching just for a few moments before he mixes it up with some criminals in that movie. So that's within my scope and plan of care as a physical therapist. So this is still, I'm gonna count this as still being a physical therapy video. But anyway, Spider-Man: Brand New Day was great. Go see it if you haven't. And if you like this content, even though this is a physical therapy channel, do like the video, subscribe, share it, all the things, and we'll catch y'all later. All right.